You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
We're back. It's a Monday edition of the show, and the Oilers even gave us some news. Let's get into it with the lead. Yes, welcome into Oilersnation Everyday, live from the Sports Closet studio, 3 locations in the Edmonton area. Check them out online at sportscloset.ca. Welcome in, Monday edition of the show. Hope you had yourself a good weekend. I see the YouTube chat is alive and well. I said in the lead, we got a little bit of news today, and it is this. The Oilers have agreed to terms with Raphael Lavoie on a 1-year contract. It is a 2-way deal worth the minimum, $775,000. I believe that's the minimum at the NHL level. A couple of things just to kick this conversation off, I suppose, and we'll talk about it. It's a small potatoes thing. It's surprising a little bit, and I'll get into that. But the Oilers signed Lavoie. He's back. The 2-way side of this, it's important to remember, because I know it's something my boy Liam gets confused with. That has nothing to do with waivers. That he still has to clear waivers next spring. That is still a thing. The only thing with a 2-way and a 1-way deal, the difference is 2-way deals mean there is a separate salary at the NHL level and the AHL level. A 1-way deal is same salary whether you're in the NHL or the AHL. So Lavoie's on a 2-way deal. His cap hit is his NHL salary when he's up with the team. So again, $750,000. I didn't see any report on what his American League salary is. I'm sure it's like, there we go. Minors $200K, guaranteed $225. So if he stays in Bakersfield the entire season, at the end of the year, he'll have $200K. Then the Oilers will chip in another $25K to get him to his minimum guaranteed. So that's the deal it ends up coming in at. You see here in the tweet from Puckpedia, which has an exciting new tool up on their website.
Yeah, they do.
As we did you tinker with it a little bit?
I did a little bit.
Nice.
It seems like it works now.
Perfect.
They announced it a couple days ago, and then I saw they retweeted and were like, "Hey, now it actually works."
Yeah, the bug fixes.
You
Nice.
gotta tinker.
Yeah, I'm becoming more and more familiar with our friends at Puckpedia. Anyways, 28 goals, 50 points in 66 American League games last year for Raphael Lavoie. Why this is surprising to me, and we'll have Bruce Curlock on today. He's our guest. Liam's on vacation, so it's just me, AB, and then we'll have Bruce swing by to give us his take on this and a few other things. But it's surprising because it was starting to feel like maybe he had ran his course a little bit as an Edmonton Oilers prospect. Again, last year, he goes on waivers. He clears waivers. I remember, in the moment, it was a big deal. And it's one of those things that within, this fan base, the team you follow on a day-to-day basis, like, yeah, it's going to feel like a bigger deal than it, well, in all actuality is. Like, every team, for the most part, has 1 or 2 Raphael Lavoies kicking around. And he's 23 years old now. He turns 24 in September. It felt like maybe he had run his course to the point where it'd be like, hey, look at our top 9. Seems relatively loaded. We haven't been giving you opportunities at the NHL level, so there's really no reason for him to think that a massive opportunity is coming unless there's injuries. I thought this was going to be one of those situations where the Oilers just say, hey, we're trading you to insert team here, Utah, San Jose, whatever, Anaheim, some team with cap or with roster spots or with more of an open competition for roster spots, at least.
I thought he would have wanted that too.
Yeah, it felt like there was maybe going to be like a mutual split coming where Lavoie would be like, I don't want to sign here because I don't know if I'm going to play. And the Oilers would go, yeah, look at who we just signed. Arvidsson's on the right side now. They're young pieces ahead of you in the lineup. Like, now Matt Savoie is all of a sudden going to come in. And guess what? He's a right shot who probably projects more as a winger than a centerman. So does he already come up above a guy like Lavoie on the depth chart? So, yeah, I don't know. That's why I was surprised. I'm happy he's back because, again, organizational depth is good. This is a guy who is a second-round pick, and at worst, he's a valuable member of the Condors, where he's produced really well, 25-plus goals in back-to-back seasons now down at the American League team. Now, what stands out when you look at his numbers is the 7 NHL games and no goals, and I see Mulick, who, great to see all the regular commenters sticking with us through the summer here in the chat, but Mulick said, he needs top 9 reps, and it's like, he does, and maybe you can flash up, AB, can you give me Stauffer's projected lineup for next year just so I can have the visual? But yeah, he needs top 9 reps. I don't agree with bringing up Raphael Lavoie to sit on the fourth line and play 7 minutes a night, right? Where does he slot in here, though, in your top 9? I think, obviously McLeod is, I got an updated one. Yeah. You have your third line set to start. That's obviously going to change a bunch of times throughout the year, but And Joel says Lavoie should get looks over Perry, in my opinion. I agree with you. Again, that's honestly part of the reason why another part of the reason I didn't love that Corey Perry signing is because I think one of those. Okay, I'm back with just audio, back with the whole thing. Okay, we're good to go. We're back. Anyways, Lavoie has upside. And again, you gave a lot of money in, not a lot, but more than you needed to a guy like Corey Perry when what's better? Lavoie and $400,000 of cap space, not even considering the bonus money that you're now going to have to pay him in all likelihood a year from now, or just run with Lavoie on that extra little bit of money. I don't know.
My thing to you, could Raph Lavoie be a fourth line type player?
He doesn't kill penalties.
So,
and I know he went down to Baco, and original Pozar gave me this insight in the DMs, but he went down to Baco. They were like, hey, he's going to penalty kill. And he penalty killed for like a minute. And then it was like, hey, it's taken away from the other parts of his game. He's never going to be a PK guy. So I don't think we can count on that. But again, Perry's not a PK guy. Like I feel like you could have made the choice to get younger. Depth is always good though. And again, the Oilers did stay pretty healthy last season, and you can't always bank on that being the case. So organizational depth, good. But as I outlined, there's a handful of reasons why I was surprised that this got done. Like when you look at this forward group here, top line looks great. Second line looks great. Third line, maybe no Evander Kane, and maybe that's a spot where you look and go, okay, Lavoie has the ability to slide into the lineup there, because I like the look of that fourth line. They're going to be doing some things and moving around some pieces. I doubt we see these three centermen. I think they'll start with Nuge on the wing this year. But maybe Lavoie cracks this team as even if it's as a 13th or 14th guy, and he just comes in as guys get hurt. Again, organizational depth, big thumbs up on that front from me. This signing was surprising, but not disappointing, I guess, is the way I'll recap.
At $775, I got no issues, brother.
Yeah. Kane, Lavoie, Nuge, question mark, from Tyler Mulick. Yeah, I mean, again, that's if you can afford to keep Evander Kane in your lineup and he's not just LTIR'd from the start of the year onwards. Gregor had a little bit on that today on a new episode of the DFO Rundown.
Cannon, how would you run your lines next season? I was talking about how I got the new rosters in Shell.
Yeah.
So I need your opinion.
You're test driving. The top six that's on your screen right now is what I'd be doing. I think that's excellent. I like the way that all kind of shapes up. I want them to just staple Holloway to Draisaitl's wing for 20 games and let them just run wild. And then, yeah, I guess maybe I am talking myself into the idea of Nugent Hopkins being a center again with the proper support pieces around him. But who is that? Because I think, like, as it stands right now, Kane is going to be an LTIR guy. I think that's the only way, unless they trade Ceci, that they can get this thing up and cap compliant. So, is it Nuge maybe on the left side with Henrique and Brown?
I think I'm bringing Rico up. If it's that's what I'm doing in Shell. And
then you go Janmark with Lane Peterson and Corey Perry on the right side. Kane's on LTIR, and yeah, I think that's maybe how you run it. I know a lot of people are going to sit there and like, whoa, you can't break out Brown and Janmark. Like, oh, they were so good. Listen, long season. Those guys are not going to play 82 games together. Like
recency bias.
Yeah, it's recency bias a little bit. They had a good couple of weeks. That is awesome. I love the fit. Good PK guys, all of that. But I'm not, if I have the ability to, play Henrique and Nuge together, I actually thought they were a good duo now, thinking back to when they did play together. So I like that.
Similar, smart hockey IQ.
Rico, Nuge, and Brown actually sounds like a really good third line to me. And then fourth line, Janmark, Peterson, Perry. Can that be a good puck possession line for you that just kind of pushes the other team deep? Sure, why not? So again, we'll do projected lines a zillion times from now until the end of the year. Was there something about Kane? 2 months, put something on. I don't give it. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I know Kane does do I think he played beer league with those guys a couple of years ago. So they might have some intel on it. They might have a direct line to Evander Kane. But again, I'll ride with Greg on that for now. What did they say? No, it hasn't been. Oh, based on the reports going over the last 48 hours, Kane fully. Yeah, I think it also might be Evander Kane kind of wanting to get that out there.
I don't know what to believe, dude. I don't.
I'll believe he very well could be on LTIR. And who knows how that hip's going to respond, right? Gregor's point was kind of like, hey, if he has a hip thing and he wants to avoid surgery for now, he wants to go through his offseason of training, and then boom, you jump into training camp and it's like, oh, not quite there, and then it's surgery. Well, And I think that kind of lines up best for everyone. Kane does everything he can to avoid surgery. If he eventually does need it, then the Oilers put him on LTIR. All right. Savoie should start in Baco. Absolutely. And we'll talk with Bruce Curlock about that in a little bit. But a couple of things that we need to get to. Let's kick things off. It's a Monday show. Let's do a little weekend recap for our friends over with the Edmonton Stingers, who had themselves a pretty nice weekend. I know our guy BM was in attendance, but the Stingers have now won 2 in a row. They're the best team in the league, only team in the CEBL with 11 wins. And you are actually low-key running out of times to go see them. Like the season always zips by. Was very happy. Was it Coach Norm that we sent last game? Yeah, he won Liam's game. He got 2 tickets to go see the Stingers. Right? Yeah. So what do we still have here? They play today's the 8th. Oh, they're in action tomorrow, 7:00. So we'll give away some tickets later today on the show once I get sorted out on that, or we'll do it on real life. But anyways, they play tomorrow back at home, 7:00. And then after that, it's only one other home game, and it's not till July 29th. Wow. So they go on a bit of a road trip here, and then the season's over. Listen, they're going to make the playoffs, but still, it's a great time. $5 beers, a whole concession menu under $5 as well. It is a great vibe out with the Edmonton Stingers. Next home game is tomorrow night, as they'll be looking to extend their winning streak to 3 games. So giddy up on that front. Elsewhere, weekend recap. Shout out to Detroit. Junior Red Wings ended up winning the Brick. Jimmy Howard was on the bench. That was one of our better April Fool's Day jokes as a company in terms of the traction it got online.
There was like the most read article that year or something.
Yeah, it was our most read article that year is our spoof post on April 1st saying the Oilers had convinced Jimmy Howard to come out of retirement and play in net. Anyways, congratulations to Jimmy Howard and the Detroit team that was at the Brick Tournament. First time ever that Detroit program has won the Brick Tournament. Aaron, you were out there. Those kids are bananas.
First time I've ever been to this tournament.
It's
I've lived
disgusting.
Here.
Good.
I'm going all the time.
Yeah.
There's only one word. It's electric. I just mentioned to you, Brett had to remind me several times, Aaron, these are 10-year-olds, because I was getting so into it. They're so good. They skate so well. Their puck handling skills, you're just like, geez. And then there's, of course, the classic with youth sports. You can tell the kids that hit puberty at the age of 10 and who haven't, and the large discrepancy that you got going on.
Yeah.
Always highly entertaining.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. I used to do play-by-play for the Brick Tournament. Always one of my favorite weekends because the games are like super fast. You just sit there,
one
knock
after
out.
another. A cute thing is that you see then the kids running around West Ed, and you see they're literally 10 years old, and they're having the time of their life out there in West Ed, going to the water park. Good for them.
Elsewhere around the city, Riverhawks having their best season ever.
Red Hot, brother. I believe they are 19-11 now overall in the season. I believe 4th in the WCL. We've never finished above 500. So being 8 games above is fantastic. If you follow the Riverhawks on socials, it's a party there every single night. We're doing like 4,000, 5,000 a night now.
Mm-hmm. Dude, between them and the Stingers, like you can have 3 to 4 really good sports nights a week in this city. Like it is really good to see that secondary. You call it secondary because it's just not the Oilers, but that secondary sports market really pick up in this city, showing that they are that they're a sports town, man.
Do we have a soccer team? We don't anymore, right?
I don't think we do. No, it's gone. Yeah.
Chat, let me know.
Mulek says I was there on Saturday. It was unreal. And then he says,
saw Mulek crush a drive yesterday on his Instagram story.
Get that golfing. I want to go golfing again this week. I'm a big fan of the early morning tee time. I think this Friday I'm going to go like 7 a.m. before our show. Just do like one of the courses here and then boom, come right in, do the show.
See how hot it's going to be this week?
Oh, I love it.
It's like all 30.
Yeah. I don't have AC in my house. I know.
I have the AC unit. I like that thing.
Yeah. So I slept in my basement last night, threw my mattress down the stairs, and I slept in my basement. It was the only way to do it. I was also out. I didn't get a chance to sleep on my Douglas mattress this weekend because I was camping. I'm not a camper. I do this thing once a year where we go to Bashaw. Met a couple of Nation citizens out in Bashaw. It's out by Camrose, playing in a Bannock tournament. It's where you throw little artificial horse ankles at other artificial horse ankles. It is a really good time. Me and my buddies put in a whole bunch of teams. Yeah, you grabbed a pick of it. Yep. There you go. That's what it looks like. So you need to throw the red ones, and there's the pits like 20 feet apart, I want to say. That might be a bit much. It might be like 18. Anyways,
What's the average age of these things?
Dude, it's actually wild because you will have teams of like 70 to 80-year-olds who've been doing this thing forever.
They got to be the best.
They're usually pretty good. I lost to a team that's average age was probably in the mid 70s. But then you have like me and my buddies who are like in our mid-20s, and then you'll play a team of like 11-year-olds. And like, you don't know who's good and who's not, especially as the Saturday moves on and the middle age group just gets like absolutely hammered out at the campsites. And then the young kids all of a sudden have a massive advantage and the older people have a massive advantage. But anyways, it was fun. My team went out with a whimper, but shout out to my buddy John and Connor and their girlfriends. They came second in the whole thing out of 72 teams.
That is impressive.
It was
Skirk, right?
Yeah, it was Skirk. It was a magical run too. It was great to sit there and watch.
And you saying you're not a camper is like the least surprising thing about
I know. Well, like again, I
love camping.
I was talking to my buddies about this when we were packing up because, like, you're folding up your tent, you're putting all the food back in the coolers, like all your clothes are disgusting. I hate that part of it. I hate being like hung over, packing up all my stuff. I like sitting around and drinking. I like drinking games. I like that aspect. I like the social.
You like the come up.
Yeah, I like the come up. I like the social aspect of camping. The flip side of it, the tear down. The first night, I like my mattress automatically deflated, so I like woke up on the ground. My back hurts. It's like
you gotta get a hand pump if you don't have power. It's like there's nothing like the Sunday morning when you all wake up. You slowly come out of your tents. Nobody really talks.
Yeah,
everything's a mess. The fire's still going, and you're like, all right, let's get out of here as quick as possible. Pack that car, get me home.
Yeah, California Oilers fan. Tyler is an indoor cat. Dude, I don't pretend to be anything
you're
but.
aware of that.
Yeah, again, this one weekend of the year where I go camping, maybe a second weekend if I do another Bannock tournament, but like I camp for Bannock-related reasons only, and that is it. And the people who do it, like Lance is like, I got a sweet camping setup. You know what? If I like maybe invested money into it, or if I was one of those people who had a trailer, like camping in a trailer. I'm talking about like in a
real
tent, sleeping bag. Like that is absolutely not for me. Davin, did you fix your fence yet? No, but James, who's a listener of the show, is my fence guy. He just talked to me. I'm currently going through the really tough. I went to my neighbor the first time and I was like, hey, we need a new fence, man. And he was like, yep. But then he was very short with all his answers. So I'm like, God, okay, going to this guy being like.
So that means you fixed the fence.
Yeah, and I did. James came out. He gave me a quote, but I haven't bumped into my neighbor naturally yet. And I keep waiting for that now that I'm back from all my travel. It's like, okay, I need to talk to him about the fence. But I haven't bumped into him naturally. And I really don't just want to like go to his house and like ring on the doorbell and be like, we doing this fence thing or not? So I am going to get a new fence. And I have already found the guy who's going to do it. I got the quote. It's all lined up. I just need to go to my neighbor and be like. You just
gotta lean on your fence for like 2 hours till you hear
it would fall
outside over. And be like, oh yeah, it will. Yes, I've seen the fence.
Yeah. So anyways, the fence situation, we'll have an update on that soon enough. All right, there's your weekend recap for our friends over at the Edmonton Stingers. Bruce Curlock's going to join us in a couple of minutes, but let's get back into the hockey talk and get into a little around the league report. Aaron, it is brought to you by our new friends over at Spring Financial. Unexpected expenses always show up. Hey, a fence? Need a new fence? They are not cheap, I can tell you that. You can borrow money for those unexpected expenses from Spring Financial right from your phone and receive an e-transfer within hours. Spring Financial offers online personal loans from $500 up to $35,000 with no stress and no branch visits ever. Join their thousands of happy Canadian customers who've made them one of Canada's top-rated lenders. Apply in 3 minutes at springfinancial.ca/ONE. That is springfinancial.ca/ONE. Travis is in. Get a vinyl fence. You'll never have to fight with your neighbors about replace. I do have a vinyl fence on one side, but the other sides don't match it. I live in an older neighborhood. So anyways, I'm doing a classic wood fence. Build the fence, give them a bill for half, move on. Well, that's a risk to take. You want to be
neighborly too. And
and then I'm going to go
to. You might have to live next to this dude for a bit.
Yeah. And there's a bit of fence that's more on my side than his side because there's a cutout and how much more am I on the hook for because of that? Do I want to be neighborly? Like if it's $4,600 for the fence, do I go like $2,000 for you, $2,600 for me? But how much is that chunk worth? It's a whole thing. Give me time. I'm on it.
It's very adult of you.
Yeah. Anyways, around the league for our friends at Spring Financial, top remaining free agents from our friend Matt Larkin, also of Frank Saravalli, but Daily Faceoff's top remaining free agents is this list right here. James Van Riemsdyk sits at the top, 35 years old. Not entirely surprising to see him still left unsigned. Ryan Suter, I'm surprised Ryan Suter hasn't retired yet. Dude, he's on the books with 2 different teams for buyouts.
Isn't everyone paying him to not play for them?
Yeah, you got your bread, bro. Just call it a career. You're 39 years old. I mean, unless he really wants to win, but I can't see a competitive team being like, that's a guy we want to add to our blue line. maybe he would make sense on like a Buffalo as a 6-7, just because they have a lot of younger pieces. But
I'd still be like, you're getting in the way.
Yeah, there's a couple of names on here that surprise me to see them still unsigned to this point. Kevin LeBank's fall off. That's fascinating, man, because he looked like he was going to be a perennial 20-goal guy for a little bit. I am a little surprised to see Tyson Barrie, 58 on our top 75, still available, just because right shot offensive defenseman, that's usually something that someone is looking for in some capacity. And depth scoring, 27-year-old Daniel Sprong scored 18 goals in 76 games last year, damn near 20-goal pace. Why is he not signed yet? The AFP projection 3x4.1. Imagine there's no way he's getting that now unless he goes to Anaheim. And what is interesting, actually, is to go look at the teams who have a lot of cap space right now. Like Sprong going back to Detroit, maybe. I know they signed Tarasenko, but they lost Perron. Maybe that's just a natural fit where it's like, hey, let's run it back one more year. You can try free agency again next year. Does Utah want to add a little offensive depth? Does Buffalo need more scoring? I would say yes.
That's shocking he is still not signed, because it's one of those things is not like the other on that list.
Oh, yeah.
AFP projection.
Although I'll also give Tyler Johnson some love on the right side. That's an interesting-ish name. Again, can play, decent depth guy, knows how to win, all those kind of intangibles that you're looking for this time of year. Same with Pacioretty. I know he vetoed some trades last deadline because he didn't want to leave Washington. Maybe he just ends up back in there. But our Sherwood Ford Giant question for the day, shout out to our friends at Sherwood Ford, the Giant. Check them out online, sherwoodford.ca. I know we're running behind. I know we got to get to Bruce, but the question was, do any of those names stand out to you as potential fits for the Edmonton Oilers? Honestly, I think no. Like we were just talking about, do you want Lavoie in the lineup next year? Is there room for him? An informed host probably would have Googled how much center Tyler Johnson played last year. Is that a guy who you'd look at?
I don't want that.
Again, I don't see anyone here who really does a lot for the Oilers. No one's primary position is down the middle. Maybe 4C if you don't want to run the Peterson, Derek Ryan, maybe one day Noah Philp kind of thing at 4C. Maybe you look for a center somewhere, but I don't see any of these guys as fits. Let me know in the chat, maybe if there's someone on this list that you like as a fit for the Oilers, but I personally just don't see one. Anyways, let's move along. Let's get to the Star Mechanical guest line, Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. You can check them out online at starmechanical.ca. Residential, commercial, they do it all, and they do it well. Been doing it well for over 20 years, starmechanical.ca. Let's get to our boy Bruce Curlock from Oilers Nation. Bruce, always a pleasure to welcome you back. You're down in Calgary, though, right? So Stampede, full of tourists. Is it just a nightmare?
Well, I mean, that's part of the, it's part of the burden of having the Stampede. So it's all right. We enjoy it. We enjoy it. So, if it comes with some extra people, that's okay too.
Are you a country music guy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Who do you like?
Oh, you name it. I like it. Okay. All the way back to George Strait. How's that?
That is very good. That's very good. I'm not a massive country music guy. I got a little bit of Morgan Wallen, but I know that's more to the pop side of country. It doesn't really count as hardo country.
Zero country over here.
Yeah. All right, let's dig into the news of the day. Let's talk a little hockey, Bruce. The Oilers re-signed Raphael Lavoie. I said not disappointing news by any stretch because I like the player. I thought maybe they were going to head towards some sort of a split where it's hey, you've been in the system for a couple of years. There's not a clear-cut natural path for you to get onto the roster next year. Maybe he'd want to go somewhere where opportunity seemed more obvious. Were you at all surprised he's coming back?
No, I don't think so. I think the problem you have as a player when of this ilk, when you've spent all your time in the AHL, it's pretty difficult for you to make a case for yourself with another team. At least, I mean, maybe a Pacific Division team might have a better book on him, but really the team that knows you best is the team that you're with. I still think there's lots of room for him in this top 13 group of forwards personally. And so I'm not shocked, to be honest.
Do you think he's got a spot on this team next year? I said off the jump, this is part of the reason why I didn't like the Corey Perry signing, because I think it's an obvious block for a guy with upside like Raphael Lavoie. Is there a spot on this team for Lavoie next year in your eyes?
Well, I think so. I'm not sold that Perry plays more than 40 games this year, and that's just a combination of his age and injury. it might even also just quite frankly be a hedge more than anything. I mean, Corey Perry, the great thing about him is you can stick him in the press box and he still has some really good influence inside the dressing room, right? So maybe it's insurance if Lavoie doesn't pan out. It certainly is. Clearly, you saw some of the players comment on his influence inside the dressing room in the playoffs, and so that's obviously a bonus. I don't see him as a block, though.
Let's move along to the big news we got on Friday. Very curious for your take on this one, because we've had a lot of discussions about Ryan McLeod and his fit on this team over the last year or so, but that era comes to an end. He goes to Buffalo. Matt Savoie comes back. Good local boy. High pick, obviously. We know all the headline grabbing parts of this deal. For the Oilers and losing McLeod, are they maybe going to miss him more than some people are willing to recognize right now? Myself included, I think.
Well, you're going to miss. I mean, there's parts of his game that are just honestly better than most of the forwards that the Edmonton Oilers have. And to start with, it's his ability to push the river in terms of shots and chance making when he's on the ice and when Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl aren't on the ice. And there aren't that many forwards on this team that do that, and one of them has just left. And so that's not you can't deny that. His ability, I think I lean a little bit more towards, I mean, that's a big part of this, but I lean a little bit more towards his ability to help this defense group, which I don't think is nearly good enough in terms of its ability to defend in zone and exit the zone. And he helps that because, he can take a puck on a 4-foot pass, or he can dig a puck off the wall and he can break it out himself. And I think that will be missed. But as I've said, and I said on X the other day, it's a gamble, but it's probably a decent gamble to take. And you've got time, right? You've got two things working in your favor in terms of time. One is that this team is going to be defined by the playoffs. In theory, this forward group is so strong now, even without him, that I don't think that there should be an issue like there was early last season. And so they should have a lot of time to be able to work through some of these things. And the second thing is that his cap dollars, they'll be able to use that in some form capacity. I get that we have to sign Broberg and Holloway, but we know there's another shoe to drop here. And so his cap dollar should help, and that should help at the defense, on the defensive side of the puck, or in the defense grouping anyways.
The other flip side of it from a cap perspective is you now get a guy in Matt Savoie who has 3 more years of his ELC. And, I'm not expecting him to make the Oilers out of camp next year, but it's also, I think, easy to envision a role where he's a good top 9 forward for them for a couple of seasons on their ELC. Where do you come out on Savoie? Because, we had Stephen Ellis on the show Friday. He said, a top 10 prospect in the NHL or in the league right now. Are you that high on Savoie? Do you think he's a guy who could play NHL games in the back half of this season, or is he further away than some people maybe think?
Yeah, so to start with, I'm quite high on him. He's easily the Oilers' top prospect, and top 10 in the league. I'm not sure. Are there 25 better prospects outside of out of him? I don't think so. I think he's quite good. I think the issue with him more than anything is he's not going to play center with this team. At least I'd be shocked if he played center with this team. And so that means he's going to go to the AHL and he's going to learn right wing. And I understand that it's easier to learn wing position over the center position, but he's 5'9", and it's a new position. So he's going to, have to adapt, have to understand what skills he needs to bring, what things he needs to work on. I saw all of his games in the AHL last year. He certainly can skate well enough. He certainly has poise under pressure. I think it'll be interesting to see what 72 games looks like in terms of physicality that he's going to face, especially if he's playing on the wall. And that's why I just think it's going to take most of this year. Could he play this year? Sure. Is it going to be in a very limited form? I think so. But that said, the exciting piece to this is that as you come into next year, when you definitely need somebody in the top 9 who can contribute offensively on a very small cap hit, he's going to be the guy.
Looking at this forward group, like I agree. I think the top 9 just appears honestly pretty set. Like there's a lot of talent there with the moves they've made. Let's live in the hypothetical world that it's Kane LTIR to start things off, and you don't have him in the mix here. And basically, the change from the end of last season to the start of next year would be you add Skinner, you add Arvidsson, and your lineup would be without Kane and without Fogle. Are the Oilers better with that trade-off?
Well, I think they are. I think it's a little bit more of a function of this is a team in the regular season that's going to generate a ton of chances against a lot of teams they're not going to see when the games start to matter. And one of the struggles that they did have last year was putting teams away when they had all of these chances. I mean, you can look back to the start of the season when they went, whatever it was, 3-9-1. I mean, I think there was one game in that in which they didn't outchance the other team. They just didn't score, and then they didn't get goaltending on top of it. So this team's going to score a lot. It's deep. It's going to be, the Oiler third line is going to be, in positions to overwhelm other teams' bottom 6. So I think it's a far better group in terms of that. I think at the end of the day, what it's going to come down to more than anything is what that, especially the top 9, looks like at the playoff time. That'll be we don't talk a lot about this with Jeff Skinner. He's very good at 5-on-5, very good. And so it'll be interesting to see when they get into the playoffs how he handles 5-on-5 at a whole different level, because it's been some time since he's done that. But overall, this is a better forward group than last year's for sure.
It's exciting to think about what they could, the potential of this group if they're all humming at the same time. It could be one of the more fun teams in the league to watch on a day-to-day basis. Going back to the prospect thing, AB, you want to flash up Bob's top 10 again that he tweeted out earlier today? He obviously has Savoie right at the top, O'Reilly behind him. Is there someone lower down that you're higher on than maybe Bob would be here, or someone who you think maybe fans who don't follow the prospect pool as closely as guys like you, someone who people should be keeping an eye on? For me, it's Noah Phil. And that's just my Golden Bears kind of bias coming through.
Yeah.
But I love that guy, and I'm so happy he's coming back to play professional hockey and pick up his career again. But is there someone on that list that stands out to you?
Well, I think we agree on that one. I mean, Noah Philp and I, being a former Golden Bear, I guess I'm biased also. But I think the thing with Noah Philp is that, he's a 6'3" right shot center who knows how to play the game in his own zone. Puck protects incredibly well and has a very high IQ for the game. I'd really be shocked. If he didn't play games this year, unless the year off took such a toll on him from a physical standpoint. I'd be shocked if he didn't play games. He's a natural to slot in at 4C. And so I think, he's probably the guy. I like Max Bonner a lot. I think he's probably too low. Xavier Bourgault, I think, is maybe too high personally. Boaki, the defenseman, who's too young to play AHL. He's got the Matthew Savoie issue from last year. He's, I think, going to be a very exciting player for the Edmonton Oilers down the road. And the other one to watch, I think, is Matvei Petrov. The one thing I really liked about him last year is he didn't score well enough for his talent, but it came a little bit. But more than anything, he really learned to play his own zone well in the last half of the season. And that, I think, bodes really well for him as a prospect. If he can take care of his own zone, I think that shot alone will buy him some games with the Edmonton Oilers down the road.
Last one I got for you was a little bit of news from down on the farm. Colin Chalk's coming back to the Bakersfield Condors. Do we like that? Is he the right coach to have as you're in this mode of just trying to graduate good middle six NHL forwards, bottom six NHL forwards even? Is he the right guy for the job down there?
Yeah, I don't know I don't know that anybody knows that answer, right? I mean, obviously the organization thinks that's the answer because he's back. I think Kelly Larson is the big piece in this. My presumption is that he's going to have the reins to establish the development protocols for these players and with specificity on the forwards. And I think that'll be the important piece here. The team has done it's hard to argue at goaltending and defense, how they've developed, but forwards they have not developed well. And part of that has been under Colin Chalk's tenure. So they brought in some resources like Larson and hopefully that helps. But I can't say that Chalk is the solution here because they just haven't developed enough offensively minded forwards. Let's be candid. If there's a position that's really hard to coach, it's offense for forwards. It's an incredibly difficult element to coach. So, you have to be fair to him there. But, with some more support, let's see what happens. But at this point, the jury's out on that for sure for me.
Always an education, Bruce. Is there a concert this week you're going to down at Stampede that you're excited for?
No concerts, just the rodeo and the Chucks.
Rodeo and the Chucks. I like that. Appreciate your time, man. Thanks for hopping on.
All right. Have a great summer.
There you go. Bruce Curlock on the Star Mechanical guest line. We always come away smarter when we chat with Bruce. And it's always a pleasure to have him on the show.
God, I love Bruce.
Oh, it's just so great. I feel so calm whenever he explains.
He just talks me off a ledge. He's just like, no,
Jeff
dude,
Skinner's good at 5-on-5. I like that. Raphael Lavoie stuff, good there. Colin Chalk, we'll see. Been at the helm for a couple of years. All right. I know there was a couple of things people were throwing in the chat as well. We'll get into a little bit of that now. I think it is time though for a rumor report. It's brought to you by our friends over at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. It's time to get outside this summer. It's already July 8th. You are going to blink and it is going to be August, and that is depressing. What's not depressing is spending the summer out on the water, though, and that is where Sherwood Power Sports and Marine can help you out. They're your one-stop shop for everything from fishing rods, reels, tackle, and boat accessories to motorcycle gear, water sport accessories, and even e-bikes. Find out more at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. All right, here's what we got going on the rumor mill right now. First off, trade activity-wise, this has not been the wild summer we kind of thought it was. Frank had Mitch Marner at number one. Mm-hmm. It's starting to look like Mitch Marner's going to be back as a Toronto Maple Leaf next year, which is crazy. Martin Necas seemed like another lock to be traded in a monster move. They got close at the draft, fell apart because I believe it was Columbus. He couldn't get an extension done with them, or he didn't want to sign an extension in Columbus. So that deal falls apart. Patrick Laine does not want to be a Blue Jacket. Don Waddell wants guys who want to be Blue Jackets. He hasn't been moved yet. They might have to retain money on that front as well. Trevor Zegras is the whole thing, whatever's happening out there in Anaheim.
He was a Michael Rubin's whiteout party.
Was he?
Yep. He's dating Dixie D'Amelio.
Oh, so he didn't even, obviously he didn't get in on his own clout.
Yep.
Okay.
Good for him.
Good pop culture pull. I think Livy Dunn was there as well.
She was.
Mm-hmm. And Paul Skeens is an all-star. So I'm very happy for both Livy Dunn and Paul Skeens. Anyways, back to the hockey rumors. Yeah, listen, there are a lot of big names still on the forward market. And I think there are some teams that would benefit from making that kind of a splash. When you look at who is the most cap space in the NHL, the Flames lead the way at $21 million. They're not going to, unless they want to do something kooky and go get a Trevor Zegras or something like that, or they view Laine as a rehabilitation project that's worth taking on right now because they're not in this serious competitive window. But I don't think the Flames are going to get up to a lot. The Ducks have $20.9 million in cap space with a full roster. They apparently, according to Frank, made offers for Marchessault and Stamkos that were richer and longer than the deals they ended up signing. Anaheim's swinging. Does Anaheim want to swing if it has to come on the trade market? Could they be a team? Dude, we saw this with the Oilers when they were bringing up all their young talent. It's not just enough to have a bunch of good young players. You need to have more experienced options. And I know they have Troy Terry and, wherever they end up coming out on a guy like Trevor Zegras, if they keep him, if they move him, they have a Strome and a Vetrano. I'm not saying they don't have anything, But next year, when you're going to be graduating in Cutter Gauthier, you're going to be looking for steps forward from McTavish and Leo Carlson. Maybe you go to Carolina and you try to swing something for a guy like Martin Necas. I think that could be a pretty interesting fit there. Detroit, $20 million. I have no idea what Steve Yzerman's doing. They gave up a second to get out of the Jake Wallman deal and then just didn't spend the money.
How much money do they have right now?
$20 million.
That's insane.
Insane. They need to sign Lucas.
I got to go there then.
They have to sign Raymond and Sider. So if they go long-term with Sider, there's probably like 8 to 9 million of that money eaten up. And then if you go midterm, like the point is they have $5-6 million bucks. So Detroit should be spending if they're in on the trade market or not. Another team that there's rumblings about is Montreal. They apparently want to go add some level of skill to that forward group, established skill. They apparently took a swing on Jonathan Marchessault, didn't obviously work out. So maybe Montreal gets in the mix on a name or two on the trade market. But that's really what we're watching right now, as we did in the Around the League. Like, not a lot of big name free agents out there anymore. If these teams, and I think Detroit is firmly at the top of that list, I think Utah with $15 million would probably like to do something. Carolina with 11 would probably like to do something. LA's got 9.9. Like, there are teams out there with cap space who will probably, all those teams I just listed have expectations of taking steps forward next year, being better than they were. The trade market's really the only way to do it. So,
could you see a team like the Red Wings or maybe the Ducks, Trouba?
I don't think Trouba's going to leave.
You don't?
I think he's got
it's
his
a weird situation.
It's a weird situation. And again, like, Jacob Trouba went to New York. That's where he wanted to be. The whole thing with his wife and obviously her career is a huge priority to them. She's a doctor. But Trouba wanted the no trade clause. He can hold firm on that. He's got 2 more years left on his deal. If they want to find a fit with one of the team he'll accept a deal to, and it's this year is 24-25, so he's got a 15-team no trade list. Like, the Rangers could try and make it work if they wanted to, but he wants to stay where he is. I would imagine the teams he'd be willing to accept to are like New Jersey and the Islanders and a bunch of teams kind of in that area, but he has every right to be a stickler with his no trade clause. That's the way those things work. So I don't know. There's been a weird like villainization of him in the Rangers fan base, which I don't get. Like, again,
your captain.
He's your captain too. Yeah. Like, that's a big part of it as well. It's wild.
It's awkward is what it is.
Super awkward. Sean is actually surprised the Leafs did not move Marner. Yeah, me too. I thought we were going to get some sort of a splash there, but Tree Living didn't get the value he wanted. So, I mean, in a sense, credit to him, right? Like, if you don't get the value you want for Mitch Marner, don't just go trade Mitch Marner for a first-round pick and be like, well.
Because everyone on X is telling you to.
Yeah.
You stick with it.
End of the day, he's a 90-plus point regular season guy. He'll get you to the playoffs. You roll the dice again. Like, it's one of those things. Remember, Ovi always had the label, not a playoff guy, not a playoff guy, not a playoff guy. And it's like, and then you do it, and all of a sudden you're a playoff guy. So, I don't know. People talking about offer sheets. I don't.
Are guys getting offered?
Yeah, Broberg and Holloway. Listen,
my deepest fear.
Yeah, I have a little bit of fear about it, if I'm being honest. I'm trying to pull up the calculator here on Cap Friendly while we still got them. Where is qualifying offer? No, offer sheet calculator. So I think the danger zone here for the Oilers is if someone went to Broberg or Holloway, or the double danger situation. I remember, it was right when the Hawks were coming out of there, and I hope I'm remembering the story right. Someone can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. Hawks coming off of a cup year or whatever, and the Sharks offer sheeted Nick Hjalmarsson and Antti Niemi, like bang, bang, because they knew the Hawks couldn't match them both and they'd get one. If you were the Calgary Flames, a $4.4 million offer sheet requires you to only give up a second-round pick in compensation. If you were the Flames and you went to Holloway, Southern Alberta boy, 4x4.4, Dylan Holloway probably won't turn down a guarantee. Like, there's no guarantee he makes half of that in his NHL career, if we're being totally honest. I think he's going to be a good player.
Second for Dylan Holloway would be, yeah.
And then for Broberg, like, we know there was frustration between Broberg and the Oilers organization. Like, again, the player has to sign it, and the player has to be willing to an extent, do hit the organization that drafted him a little bit dirty. And those two guys would have to be willing to go, yeah, I'm giving up on playoff hockey for the next 4 years to chase the bag a little bit. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're talking like a 2 to 3% chance this happens. But if you were the Calgary Flames, like, let's put ourselves in their position, as disgusting as that might feel. You get to screw over the Oilers and you get a quality young player. Yeah, you're overpaying them for a handful of seasons, but like
they don't care right now.
Why would you care right now? Yeah. Go get the young player. Piss off the Oilers while you're at it. I don't think it's ultimately going to happen. And honestly, like if the Flames went to Broberg with a 6x4.4, which is kind of what Frank was, he not reporting this. It was like the spitball, like this is what would happen if it were to go down that way. If you're the Oilers, I think you probably match it at this point for Philip Broberg. And it makes your cap situation incredibly tricky. You have to trade Ceci. You have to do something with the Vander Kane. It sucks. But that's why if a team, and maybe it's not Calgary, right? Maybe it's another team out there because there are, according to Cap Friendly, 16 teams who have the compensation and the cap space to be able to do it. You go offer sheet both of them, kick your feet up and go, I'm getting one of them for a second round pick. Yeah.
I find it would just be especially in Broberg's case, he might now, because of the playoffs, be a top 4 defenseman on one of the best in the NHL. You can't give that up for a couple extra bucks.
Yeah, but see, but the difference is like with no arb rights, Broberg is probably signing a 1 or 2 year deal at $1 to $1.5 million per year. So he's getting at most on this next deal with the Oilers $3 million. If another team came and said, here's 6x4, here's 24 million dollars.
And then you can still get paid at the end of that one. I don't like being in these shoes.
I don't like being in these shoes either, but like even Dylan Holloway, if it's Calgary coming being like, hey man, how's 16 million guaranteed to kick things off sound? Like it'd be hard. And why would they leave for a chance to win a cup? Listen, I understand where you guys are coming from, but you have to remember these guys aren't Oilers fans. Yeah. They're Oilers players, right?
Money talks.
Money talks. Like you'd be singing a different tune if it was you or your son sitting staring down potentially $16 to $24 million guaranteed. Like, and Lance says offer sheets don't happen as much as fans fear them. Yes, 1,000%. Like we had the Kotkaniemi and Aho fiasco feud, whatever you want to call it, between Montreal and Carolina. Ultimately, it resulted in Carolina getting Kotkaniemi and probably getting a deal that they regret doing in hindsight because, obviously risk from the player's perspective because you put the team that drafted you and the team you might have to return to into a little bit of a corner. But it's legal. It's allowed. You get to maximize your earnings. From the Oilers' perspective in this situation, or any team's perspective, you then have to potentially match a deal you didn't want to sign or risk losing a guy for subpar compensation. A second-round pick for Broberg and Holloway is not nearly market value for those guys, right? And then from the other team, there is the Kotkaniemi risk. We're like, okay, listen, I think Phil Broberg's going to be a top 4 guy in the NHL. I think next year that's the plan, is to have him be a top 4 guy with the Edmonton Oilers. But he's only done it for 8 games here. Let's not forget that. Or 9 games, whatever it is, 10 games. Like, he didn't do it for the back half of the season and roll into the playoffs. Bruce. I trust Bruce as well. But I'm just saying, if you're the Flames and you're going to go commit $24 million to this guy, you are also sitting there going, okay, what if he's not? What if he's a fringe guy? What if he's a 6? And there's risk there, which is what happened, I think, with the Canes and Kotkaniemi. And, they eventually got him signed to a long-term deal. They bit the bullet on 1 year having to pay him too much. And now they're sitting there with a guy, in their middle 6 who's going to make $4.8 million for a really long time. It's ultimately fine, but I don't know. Is Kotkaniemi worth that right now? Mulick, remember how we got Penner, yeah? And then Maynard points out that Penner scored 32 goals on a shitty Oilers team. And yeah, like the Dustin Penner thing is a really good example of it. I know injuries kind of got in the way, but I don't know, from an Oilers perspective, didn't that kind of, again, like that whole era didn't go the way you wanted it to. But so he was so he was signed by the Oilers. I forget what ended up going down there.
First, second, and third in 2008.
So 3 picks. Says. But at the time, that would have been 07. So he would have been 25 years old. You got a 25-year-old power forward who scored 23, 17, 32, and 21 goals on really shitty rosters for you. And then injuries obviously got in the way. Oh, and also you ended up flipping him for Colton Tubert at the time. Fine prospect. First-round pick that became Oscar Klefbom and a third-round pick. You basically got 4 productive years out of Penner and then flipped him for exactly what you paid for him the first time around, if not a hair more. So, like, again, that situation, it worked out for the Oilers, but
I'm looking at this. The Oilers offer sheeted Thomas Vanek, July 6, 2007.
Yeah.
I completely forgot
and
that.
Buffalo match. It was like a 7x7, right? And it would have turned out terribly.
7 years, $50 million.
So yeah. And then what was the year on that as well? Does it say?
July 6, 2007. So 20 days before they offer sheeted DP.
So, and again, That would have been the compensation. There would have been 4 first rounders, I believe.
Yeah, it doesn't say what it would
off. I don't think it's changed that much, but I do think it was around like 3 or 4 first round picks. Again, I might be misremembering this, but I'm pretty sure it would have resulted in the last first round pick they had to give up being Taylor Hall. Like, it could have blown up hilariously if Buffalo didn't match that, because I don't think Thomas Vanek was keeping you out of the basement.
All roads led to Connor.
Okay, this one from Mulek. Also, Greta YouTube chat. You guys are killing it today. Yep. The Flames offer sheeted Ryan O'Reilly, and that one was messed up. And who knows if I'm remembering these stories correctly, but I'm 90% sure I am. I have a pretty good memory with this stuff. The Flames offer sheeted him while he was holding out from Colorado, and Colorado matched, but Calgary didn't understand the CBA enough. If he would have signed with Calgary, they would have had to put him on waivers to get him on the active roster, and then any team could have just claimed him. Like, both sides fumbled that horribly.
Whoa.
I swear that was the thing, right?
Wow.
Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah. Just looking through this. Yeah. Jalmerson, San Jose. Can you guys see this if I do this?
Okay, I swear this is right. What began as a promising Thursday evening left the Calgary Flames red-faced. Okay, so then Friday, thanks to Chris Johnson, the hockey world discovered Feaster avoided further embarrassment. If they were successful in their offer sheet maneuver, the Flames would have had to put O'Reilly through waivers. They could have lost him to another team while still having to give up the first and third round pick to Colorado because they offer sheeted him. Can you imagine and I think Columbus at the time was 30th in the league. And it's like, so Columbus literally would have slid in, grabbed Ryan O'Reilly. Calgary would have given up a first and a third for nothing. I think Jay Feaster was fired pretty shortly
after. I was going to say, how do you keep your job after that?
So is this all the offer sheets, hey?
Yes.
So Backus was matched.
We'll go the other way. Yeah.
And Kakaniemi was not reached. First and a third goes back the other way. Aho, O'Reilly, Weber, Jalmerson, Steve Bernier. That's an interesting one. David Backus, Dustin Penner, not matched. Vanek was matched. Kessler, I remember that Kessler one as a crazy one. And then before that, it wasn't more common, but the compensation was different. The Weber one was bananas as well. Like, again, like cornerstone piece of their franchise. It was like, yeah, I'm signing an offer sheet. And again, so many of these just got
14 years, 110 million.
It's when contracts were kooky.
That's nuts.
That contract's still not over yet either, right? Because that was in 2012. Yeah, it's got one more year. Obviously, he's LTIR, but you get what I'm saying. All right. That was a good show. Almost an hour flew by.
I watched this Joe Sakic documentary the other day about the offer sheet.
Oh, yeah. That's a thing on ESPN. It's a 30 for 30, right?
One of those things.
All right. Before we wrap up, I mentioned I want to get golfing this week. I think I'm going to go out and see my friends over at the Millwoods Golf Course. That's where we're returning for the Oilers Nation Open this year. You can grab it now. Nationgear.ca. Get your foursome in. I think we're going to be doing some form of mosaic teams as well. So we'll talk about that more probably on Real Life. But shout out to the Millwoods Golf Course. Private club conditions under $100. A fully stocked pro shop with lots of local clothing lines. Follow them on socials at Millwood GC or visit them online, millwoodsgolfcourse.ca to book online. I've not been out this year, but I want to get out to Millwoods. It is one of the better courses, one of the better public courses in Edmonton. Like they said, private club conditions for under $100. You cannot beat that. And the rounds move fast too. Sometimes you get out to those public courses and these are a drag as well. But Millwoods keeps it tight, which I always appreciate. Speaking of golf, let's do the other sports report. Aaron, the Toronto Blue Jays won 2 of 3 over the weekend. They're still 8.5 back though. They're taking on the San Francisco Giants starting on Tuesday. The Giants also stink this year, or they're below average this year, under 500. So maybe the Jays can get some positive momentum going into the All-Star break, but they're probably selling at the deadline. So that's depressing.
You having fun doing Jays Nation this year?
No, not at all. It sucks. Talking about the Jays on Blue Jays Nation Radio, not fun. Coombsy and I keep it entertaining though. Anyways, today in baseball, one of my favorite things to bet on, shout out to our friends at Betway 19+, please play responsibly, is pitcher strikeouts, man. That is the absolute best. I cooked one up yesterday. I did Barrios over 4.5, Grayson Rodriguez over 6, and I did someone else. Who was the third? Oh, Brady Singer. And it was great. I looked at the box scores after 2 innings. Barrios had hit, Singer had hit, and Rodriguez had like 4 of his 6 already. And I was like, this is beautiful.
We need to find a way to work with Betway that when you make these bets, they're public for us. Because I know Barrios. Those other 2 names, no idea what you just said.
Yeah.
But I want to ride.
Gavin Williams is starting today for the Guardians. He's actually a really good arm that like not a lot of people know about. So I'd probably look at him and his over. Chris Sale, You're a bit of a Braves guy, Aaron. Chris Sale is on this insane comeback tour here. Like, he is looking like vintage Chris Sale. His over-under is 6.5 today. He's been crushing that. I think he had 9 his last time out. He's got some double-digit ones in his book. So, anyways, if we want to cook something up together over courtesy of Betway, give me Williams over 4.5. Give me Sale over 6.5. And then is there like a real safe favorite to bet today in baseball? It probably is the Braves against the Diamondbacks, but I don't like that. Diamondbacks can be sneaky. Just play those two, plus 170.
Did you see this Chris Sale comeback coming? Because I didn't.
No, and he's a spaz too. I did. I thought he was cooked. But anyways, shout out to Betway, Gavin Williams, and Chris Sale. There you go. Joel. Never cared about baseball. That and golf are so boring to watch. Golf is electric to watch. I love watching golf on TV. When it's a major, man, and like shit's intense, it's great. I love baseball too.
Canada, soccer.
Yes, they play tomorrow. So I wanted to bring that up now. 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
So first off, what a win on penalties to beat Venezuela.
That was electric.
Absolutely electric. Sidney Crosby was in the locker room after congratulating the boys. So Canada is in the semifinal of the Copa America right now. They play Argentina, so toe-to-toe against Messi tomorrow at 6 o'clock. It is going to be, dude, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be electric. What are they on Betway, actually? Because I want to check that out.
Dude, I'm getting excited. This soccer's been good. I've been watching tennis.
I love a big footy match.
I'm watching tennis. I'm getting ready for the Olympics.
Wimbledon's on right now,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, where am I going here? I'm going football because Betway, European. Food. Oh, they don't have the odds up yet? No. Oh, Copa America. Boom. Got it. Canada, 8-1 to beat Argentina.
A sprinkle.
I don't hate that. Sprinkle that, then sprinkle the draw. So if it goes to penalties, you'll get your money. They lost 2-0 last time they played them. But anyways, 8-1 Canada to take down Argentina tomorrow. One of the top-ranked teams in the world.
Too. It was Ronaldo versus Mbappe in penalties at the Euros.
Oh, the Euros.
Soccer's lit right now. So yeah, football.
It actually is. Again, I mean, I'm just a sports sicko. I'll watch anything. Like, I'm not. Like, I know some people, like hate baseball, hate golf, hate football. I will watch.
I like whatever's on.
Yeah. Yeah. Just throwing it on. We usually have a game on, like, especially with the Euros. Someone was always watching soccer in the office. All right. That's a wrap on today's edition of the show. Remember, summertime now. So we're going Monday, Wednesday, Friday for our 3 shows. Friday, more often than not, it's probably going to be like an interview episode of the show. And then Monday, Wednesday, kind of like your regularly scheduled programming where we'll talk a whole bunch of hockey and whatnot. Lance, where's a good place to watch the Canada game tomorrow? Greta.
Fact.
Shout out to Greta. Arcade, bar, street food, great spot to watch the game. And at halftime, endless entertainment with all the arcade games. So there you go. Mainline entertainment line of shift from 9 to 1 this morning. Okay, public money pushing Canada. Let's get it. Let's get it. Will the Oilers make another move by Wednesday? Who knows? See what Jeff Jackson's cooking up. New episode of Real Life dropping later today. So like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube, make sure you handle that as well. We'll be back on Wednesday. Oil up. Ciao with you then.
Thank you for watching Oilers Nation Every Day. Hit the subscribe button to never miss a show. And for more, visit Oilersnation.com.